Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mind Your Business and Sit Down with Stephen. I'm your host, Stephen Meadows. Today, I'm really excited to be talking with Zach Gorman, who is the co-founder of Real Reports, which is a really interesting AI-powered data tool. My company was probably, I would say, an early adopter of the technology, and we even helped did some beta testing. So it's a really impressive product, and so we're going to hear from Zach just about general conversations about AI, but we will be telling you a little bit about Real Reports while we're chatting, because obviously. But Zach knows a lot about the AI and real estate space, so I thought it would be a cool conversation to have. So Zach, if you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, maybe your journey in the prop tech space, I think they'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for having me today, Stephen. I always appreciate the time to chat with you, and excited to dig in today. So I won't bore everybody with too many details here, but I've been building in the prop tech space since 2017. Previously started my own tech-enabled real estate brokerage with my co-founder, James. And it was really the problems that we faced building up that company and the experience that we had sort of, working from the inside, working with real estate agents, building technology for real estate agents and their customers that, fueled what we're building now at Real Reports. And the high level issues that we were facing were really around real estate data. I'm sure many of your listeners are, professionals and experts in the field and can empathize with this, but especially in the residential space, real estate data is incredibly fragmented. It's expensive to access. Sometimes it's not accessible at all. And again, whether you're a real estate agent in the field trying to diligence properties before a showing or before an offer, you can find yourself going to 10, 15 different, websites, or literally standing at town hall trying to get records. And it's this exhaustive time sink. And, especially in this market, in this climate, speed is everything for an agent, and, being able to service multiple clients, and, data is power. Like, all of these things rely on there being, a much more efficient resource for data, and a much more, higher fidelity data resource as well. And that just hadn't existed. And then same for us on the build side. When we were trying to build products, we built something, a search portal akin to a Zillow competitor to help our customers find the right home faster. And anytime we would try and add new data sources, again, it was just this really tedious effort where you're facing down, 3-year contracts with data providers, or 6 figures in overhead and 6 months of implementation. And it's like, I think people, if you take a step back and look at the prop tech industry at sort of a macro level, there's been a lot of great companies out there, but there's also been a lot of sort of fluff, a lot of fintech models, and a lot of the prop technology I don't think has really been realized yet. And to us, the insight was, well, it's because of this data fragmentation issue. All of the, you think about it, if all of these companies are trying to build technology in the space and they're all hitting the same roadblocks of trying to access data, then it's no wonder that they're not able to build anything meaningful in a quick amount of time. So anyways, all of that led to where we are now, building Real Reports. And the very high level on the product, you can think about it as the AI supercharged Carfax for homes. So we bring together at this point almost 40 different data sources for residential real estate, and put that all in one place, all in one nice, clean, beautiful product, and then use AI to allow real estate agents who are, predominant users of the platform to basically query that data in real time and get the answers they need. So, it's one of those things I say, data is similar to paint. You can throw as much of it at the wall, but that doesn't make it art. And for a real estate agent, there are plenty of property resources out there. It's not a novel idea, but you can throw all this data at somebody, but they don't necessarily know what to do with it, or how to make sense of it, or how to use it meaningfully with their clients and get an extra advantage. So the AI is this really elegant solution to that, and has come at the perfect moment in time because of the challenges that our industry is facing with the competition and everything going on. So, anyways, that's sort of the high level of the product.
Yeah, and I agree. I think probably a big problem that we've had in the prop tech space is companies just rushing to market to try to be the first one to offer this service, and not even understanding how a realtor in this case would use the product, or how does it benefit the consumer. It's just the shiny object mentality of, we're trying to capitalize on AI. And so first question for you is, in your opinion, do you think AI will replace real estate agents? I know that question gets asked a lot.
Yeah, no, I do not. Absolutely not. You know, I can make an argument for the other side, but our whole philosophy is that there's always going to be a critical need. This is a entire industry built on relationships between people. People want, especially first-time home buyers and people early on in sort of their home ownership life cycle. They want to work with somebody. They want that local knowledge. They want that insight. They want somebody to literally hold their hand through the process. We absolutely do not think that AI is going to replace real estate agents. I think in some ways it may begin to disintermediate agents who don't use AI tools. That's really where we stand, is that agents who use AI will replace or at least outcompete agents who don't. And that's, just like agents who use any modicum of technology today versus the ones who are still doing paper and pencil and fax machine, like there's obviously a real difference between the service potential between those two providers. So, I think AI is going to feel more visceral in terms of that divide is going to grow that much faster because AI technology is growing at a logarithmic rate. So that transition, I think, will happen a lot faster. But I think at the end of the day, people are going to want to still work with somebody. And, there may end up being modular services that are more AI driven on the search side. We're already really dealing with many consumers using only technology on their home search up until they're ready to go see showing. So there are always shades of gray here. I don't want to just be like, super binary about it, but our opinion is really that AI will replace agents by the agents who are using those AI tools.
No, I agree. And honestly, I think what's really missing in the space is an AI company goes out and they create a tool for real estate agents, let's say. And it's cool, it's shiny object, da da da. And then like a month later, the agent's like, okay, so I've made my property description. I've done these other things. I've written a couple of email campaigns or whatever. I don't know what to do now. And I think that's where these companies are misstepping, is they're not teaching the end user how to use their product consistently and give them a reason to keep going back to it. And I've seen all these different platforms. I've vetted a lot of these tools, and there's just this missing piece there. I mean, even me, like my early days in AI, I would just sit in front of ChatGPT and kind of go, I don't know what to say to this thing. Like, what am I supposed to ask it? I don't know. I need prompts. I need ideas. Like, tell me how I should be using this. And so I think that's the missing piece. If someone can crack that code and create a product and then teach their users how that product is going to continually help them, and that's one of the reasons I love something like Real Reports, is that has real life, real case studies. It's something that an agent can use on the buyer side, on the seller side, whatever, for investors. There's all these different ways that they can leverage that data. But I still think there is a component there where they have to be told, so this is what this data is, and this is how you can use it.
Yep.
I'm a data nerd. Totally. Like I've got more spreadsheets probably than the average, nerd out there. And, you can hand someone a bunch of spreadsheets and they'll go, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
It's data. It's amazing. It has so much value. And they're just like, okay, I'm happy. Yeah, it's numbers on a spreadsheet. That's all it means to me. So why do you think there is such a hesitation for agents to adopt AI in this day and age?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold. Number one, it's just human nature. This is not just an agent, issue or problem, however you want to frame it. I think everybody just has, everybody's entrenched in their ways and their behavior. And, I think AI is this first moment in time where, like, if you give people some real instruction, some real education around it, they can find their way to that sort of, moment of delight and the win that they get from using one of those tools that will reinforce like, oh, okay, it'll rewire their neural network and they'll be like, I get it, period. But I think you're absolutely right. Like, we need to, I totally agree with you. PropTech has really, I think, failed in understanding its customer, especially when it comes to real estate agents. And, I'm plenty of people like to rail against the industry because, there are, of course, a lot of not great agents out there, but there are also a lot of fantastic agents out there. They're very busy, which means, as a company, our approach and our philosophy is always that we cannot rely on them coming to us and knowing what to do next. We have to meet agents where they're at. We have to integrate with the tools they're already using. We have to give them the insights rather than make them ask the question. Like, that stuff is so critical. And I think as a technology company, you shouldn't have this hubris of like, well, we've built such a great product, so that should speak for itself. It's like, it's not enough, especially in this industry. And just like what you're saying, we're really excited. We'll be rolling this out in the next couple of months, but we already have this semblance of the AI gives you ideas and suggestions that you can sort of opt into of questions to ask based on the kind of data that you're looking in a report. But honestly, it can be taken so much further. I think, ChatGPT made this sort of chat dialogue, the ubiquitous AI, interface, which is on some level, I think, brilliant because anybody knows how to talk to something. And as long as it can talk back to you, that's great. But it requires a lot of keystrokes. It requires you knowing how to ask the right question and get the right response. And prompt engineering is a real thing still. I think over time that'll also fade into the background where it's less reliant on the user to have to do that. But anyways, I just think that the resistance is coming from people have set behaviors. They don't like to change. And I, of course, think in the real estate industry, specifically, we've always been dealing with like, well, is technology going to take our jobs? And we already addressed this previously, but I think the answer is no. But I think there's, a lot of vested interest in just keeping things lethargic and, the status quo. But, what we've seen real success with is we like to get our hands dirty. And again, you have to do that work with a new product to say like, not only am I just going to tell you all the great things about it, but I'm going to tell you again and again and again. I'm going to talk to you through emails and webinars and resources and case studies and just give you all of the social proof you need and help really guide the pen, because I think anybody building technology should not depend on their users coming across that insight on their own. It's like our job to really show that to them.
I agree. I think as an industry, real estate agents are not the fastest tech adopters. We don't generally like to learn a lot of new skills because we're busy. We're out there prospecting and we're out there shaking hands, and to have to sit down and learn something it's kind of it's a pain, and it takes us away from what we're supposed to be doing. It takes us away from the money making activities.
Right.
And I think that's what's missing is that mindset. And that's why I do appreciate the fact that your company was built out of a real estate brokerage, because we're a different breed. Realtors are real estate agents in general are just a different animal, and that's why I love some of these new features like ChatGPT you brought up. Everybody knows I'm a huge fan, but I've also played with Claude. I've started using Gemini a little bit. And just this morning, I sat down to ask Gemini a question, and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to go back over to ChatGPT because now it remembers the stuff that I've taught it. So it knows about me. It knows about the projects. Even though it's a new chat stream, it remembers. And I literally said, knowing everything that you know about me and what I'm trying to accomplish, how do I use this platform for X? And I don't have to re-explain everything to it like I would in Gemini or Claude, which is really an awesome feature. And so like from a tool like Real Reports, for instance, it would be cool if a future, feature might be, if there's certain red flags, I guess, and I don't know who would determine what those red flags are, but maybe like environmental. I know you've brought that up in the past about, the story. I think it was James. There's an environmental issue, or the insurance companies didn't want to cover the house because it was a high risk it'd be interesting if the AI could point that out or say, would you like more information? It looks like there's a red flag here, or is this something you'd like more information on? Because sometimes people don't notice, especially consumers. They wouldn't know to look at everything. I mean, there's a lot of data on these reports. Even I'm like, okay, scroll. Like, I don't know if this is probably doesn't apply, whatever. I'm very specific. Like, I know what I'm looking for. So I think that would be cool. So I think the thing that agents, well, people in general, people forget about AI is it's supposed to make things more efficient. It's supposed to help you absorb information more quickly, and get to the answers in a fraction of the time. So I think if we can start using it that way, life will be much easier. Like, I can't tell you how many hours I have saved using artificial intelligence tools. Some people are really freaked out about it, and that's fine. You're allowed to have your own opinion. I'm just more like, it's here. We might as well use it. I'm not. Yes, I've watched Terminator. Skynet will take over someday. That's fine. My goal is to just be on the right side of that and make sure the AI knows that I'm a nice person, and that maybe it won't annihilate me when computers take over the world. And that's all I can really hope for.
Well, I completely agree, and I can empathize with that 100%. And I'm excited what you brought up. All I'll say is just like, stay tuned. We'll be making some very meaningful changes in terms of how the AI sort of selects what you need to know in the reports in the very near future. And recently, we've actually added some tools that already address that. I think you may have caught that Aiden is now multimodal, so it can read property documents, which is something that originally could just read all the data that we were bringing in, which was great. But now agents, because again, we've learned from our own experience in the field, you upload, you're in a state with disclosures that you're getting these 80-page documents or condo documents, inspection reports. The reality is oftentimes agents just don't have the time to read through those documents, in close detail. And now our AI can read those for you, summarize everything, and then based on what the document is, it'll actually pick out what you need to know from that document, based on all the training that we've done. So it's just, we're getting, it's not even inch by inch because it happens overnight and it's moving so fast, but we are rapidly approaching this sort of like lossless insight where I'm an agent. I don't even have to ask the question. The information I need comes to me. If I need clarification, that's where I can escalate and start a dialogue between the AI to like dig in further. Or if I have something really surgical I need to know, like what is the bylaw on page 72 referring to, something very, very surgical. That's when you're talking to it or, typing with it. But I love the experience of just the information comes to you and you don't have to even touch anything. It's just there, and ready for you.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking through use cases, just uploading an HOA doc into the system and asking it questions like, can I short-term rental this property? Are animals allowed? What's the rules about fences? Those are a lot of things that are just buried in these documents. I mean, I sat on our HOA board for a short time, and even I was like, oh, geez, I didn't know it said that. Like, I should have asked for permission to do this landscaping project. I didn't think about it. It wasn't hardscape or anything. I wouldn't have known. I didn't know there was a tree height limit in the neighborhood because of the views. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of uses for that where a normal person, it would take hours sometimes to comb through these documents. And from a liability standpoint, the agent, I've heard a lot of horror stories about, oh, we bought this property and we didn't check to see if long-term rentals or short-term rentals were allowed. And now I can't Airbnb my house for less than 30 days because the HOA has a rule about that. I don't know if I would have bought the house had that been the case. That's not my opinion. I'm just giving an example.
No, sure.
Everyone out there listening, I'm not trying to rent my house. But, it's those types of, like, one of the topics that I had, jotted down about talking about was mitigating risk using AI. And I think that falls right into that category is, this is a great way of helping your buyers and sellers understand these more complex things with, and it saves you a ton of time. So maybe speak to that, what you're seeing out in the industry for like mitigation, what are what's Real Reports or what are other companies doing to build those types of products that are really, it's not just time saving, but it's also, this is going to save you, could be legally or ethically. Like how are we looking at those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super important. It's one of the insights that we've had as we've been building because, I I love the time efficiency of AI. That said, I think on some level, real estate agents don't necessarily value their time. They know intuitively that it's important, but I don't think they actually ascribe a dollar value to that time. And so it's one of those interesting things as a technology company where AI, one of the big unlocks is just efficiency. 10x your process, 10x your process, 100x your whatever it is. But if somebody hasn't experienced that pain acutely, then it's really hard to convince them that it's a painkiller. And at least in the startup world, you're always trying to build a product that's a painkiller rather than a vitamin. Vitamin's great. If you take them every day, you're doing yourself a great service. That's amazing. The behavioral psychology, people think based on painkillers. And so one of the things that we've really been leaning into now is like, how are real reports also a painkiller? And this mitigating risk, that's it. And it comes from sort of two sides. Like you mentioned it earlier, but for consumers, this is all about trying to mitigate risk for them. And we've all worked with clients and gotten too far down the road, gotten that offer document signed, and then something comes up. Something comes up in the inspection or purchase and sale, the unforeseens. And listen, some of those things are just going to happen and there's nothing you can do. But the more you can do to prevent that, because it is just the absolutely most brutal part of that process. It creates a lot of bad blood all around. It really, erodes a lot of trust and credibility, no matter who's responsible, if anybody even is. It's such a painful part of the process. And so our reports are really there to empower agents and their clients with just as much information as possible so that they know what's coming down the road. They know, what's happened at the house, what's going on with it, what's going on in the area. And I was saying earlier, you sort of referred to it as well with like the condo documents. We have a client who came to us and they're like, listen, we have multiple lawsuits right now because there was oversight when it came to upcoming assessments in these condo documents. And that's a huge deal. Like that, everybody's feeling that pain, from the top down. And the fact that you can just upload a document and it'll know to tell you about upcoming assessments because it's been trained on like, hey, this is something that you're going to need to know when you pull up any kind of condo document. That's huge. Like, again, you're saving the time because you're not looking through a 60-page document, page by page, full of legalese printed on a bad PDF. But then you're actually just, you're just protracting all that time, but then you're also getting the answers to the things you need so that you can feel comfortable moving faster, working with more clients, and knowing that you're not just missing those, details underneath that can really, turn around and bite you.
So that's an interesting sidestep question. This is more about specifically Real Reports. So let's say it's a crappy, like scanned copy of an HOA doc. Is the AI still able to break that down, or does it need to be like a non-flattened PDF? Like, what are the limitations when it comes to that kind of thing? Like, because not everybody's going to send nice, clean things. It's going to be, I took this picture with my phone and sent it to you.
The first thing I'll say is it's always getting better, period. The more data, the more images, everything, it always just improves it. But right now, it's pretty incredible what it's able to do. Obviously, if I redacted full lines of text, it could take a crack at it, but we've also trained our AI model to not make subjective inferences because you get into some weird territory there. And the worst thing we could do, I'd much rather say we don't know versus we think it could be this. That's where we could get ourselves into a little bit of hot waters. That said, if it is reasonably legible, it will absolutely be able to read it. We give people guidance around like, listen, for your own benefit, for the AI, like try and upload things, in a standard format so that they're, right side up and not every single page is a 9-degree turn, just like basic logic when it comes to documents. But we've had some stuff that we've uploaded, and it's not just text, it's images. So condo documents will have floor plans and everything laid out, and they don't look great. In the AI, I'll be like, describe to me the floor plan, like tell me things that stand out to you. And it can read that perfectly. So it's been pretty impressive. I think it is generally what you would expect. Like if it looks totally illegible, then it's probably going to flag that and be like, hey, try again, try re-uploading this. But as long as somebody's getting you like a halfway decent picture, even if it's on their phone, like you'll be fine.
No, that is really cool. Sorry, that idea popped into my head, and I thought, well, I better ask about that,
Yeah.
because I am always fascinated by how fast we've come. And I think about last year when I launched my Chat GPT for real estate class and how outdated it is now. I might as well just delete it, because I mean, it's just, yes, it's still useful, but it's so like I'd be like Windows ME or something. Like, look how this looks. But I know we got off on some interesting topics, but I could sit here and talk all day. But I do have one last question, then we'll wrap up for this round. I have a feeling we'll continue this conversation. But where would you say, if you had your crystal ball, what's the future of AI in real estate? Where are we headed?
Optimistically, I think we have just started, in terms of the life cycle. And I think this is true for a lot of industries, but specifically real estate, because it tends to be slower to adopt any kind of technology wave. I think we're going to see, outside of even products like our own, I think we're just going to start seeing, more, I don't want to use the term agent, let's use co-pilot so we don't get confused with semantics, but more co-pilots assisting agents in every part of the domain of their practice, whether it's, on the research and diligence side, which is like a product like ours, whether it's something, there are a ton of great companies out there. I know Verse is one of them, verse.io. They do a lot with AI and lead nurturing. So basically, instead of having multiple people out there calling up your leads, giving them those touch points, text, phone calls, things like that, the AI will train itself based on prior communications. It knows sort of how to engage people. It automatically does that at different points of time. And then when somebody responds, it then sort of qualifies them and pushes them back to you. And so, because that's such a tedious part of the process, and it also comes down to first principles for an agent. They're always thinking about growing their top of funnel, expanding their business. So if you can have, an AI out there doing the work of conceivably, limitless people qualifying leads and giving them value, not just like the sort of operator AI where it's like, how can I direct your call? It's like that plus, like actually giving you value, actually getting to know that person, giving the agent the information they need, to actually interact with them, rather than like, here's another lead, call them. Beyond that, we're not giving you much more. So I think it's just going to lead, of course, it's all about time and efficiency, but I think it's going to lead, if we're specifically talking about agents, it's just going to allow agents to continue to excel at the things that they honestly want to be doing, the parts of their job that only they can do, the personalized interactions, the local expertise beyond what data can tell you, like local experience in these areas and these places where people are looking to buy and own homes. I just think it's really boiling down to that. And, again, I think there will be some level of collateral damage, because people who do not embrace those tools will sort of get left by the wayside over time. But for the agents who do, I honestly think it's going to build up a lot of credibility that the industry is suffering from right now, of, having gutted with everything going on. I think a world in which agents are able to perform and excel at their core business and the things that only they can do is only going to be a value add for everybody. And I think really, hopefully shed a lens on like why this trade is amazing and why the people involved are amazing. So at least in that domain, that's where I see it headed. Across the entire industry, I'm just hopeful, again, sort of wrapping it to, the beginning of our conversation, that it enables a true paradigm shift in terms of technology and real estate, because everybody knows that there's potential, yet we're still bogged down with, it feels like we have anchors around our ankles, and it's, AI is just this unlock and inevitability in terms of efficiency that I think just enables everybody to take a step forward, a great leap forward, as it were, all at once. And so I think we're going to see a lot. There are a lot of great companies out there working on things already. But I really think we've just begun.
I agree. Yeah, no, I think we're just on the bleeding edge, I guess, of it, and I agree. I think agents using AI will help the industry's credibility problem and show our value and all that good stuff. So I'm a huge proponent, as everybody knows. So any kind of advancements in the field, I'm always interested in hearing about. So I thank Zach for his time today. And I will say I'm a big fan of the product, Real Reports. My agents use it. We're seeing some really good results from it. So I would encourage you guys to look into it. It's realreports.ai, correct?
Yep, that's right.
So reach out. We'll have the contact information in the show notes and things like that. But it's an interesting product, and I think it's definitely worth a look. Zach, thank you again for joining us today, and we will see everybody on the next one.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Really appreciate it.